Now they say life begins at 40, but personally I think that's rubbish, and I always have done, because for me life didn't really begin probably until I hit the big 50, yes, 50. Okay, so I know I went to climb Mount Everest when I turned 40, twice in fact, but that actually ended up being a total disaster. Twice in fact. Although, to be fair, I did get a best-selling book out of it. So you've got to take the wins when you can. So life really did begin for me when I turned 50, and not in the go and buy a Jeep, get lots of tattoos and hit the gym every day, channeling your inner Schwarzenegger kind of way, but in the let's dig up forgotten histories, wander into cobbled alleyways, and occasionally cross paths with witches and ghosts kind of way. Or as Gandalf wisely put it in The Lord of the Rings, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. So today I want to take you on a journey, not to Rome or Machu Picchu, but through my own quirky path of discovery since I turned 50. It's about the unseen histories that surround us every day, and how stumbling into them changed the way that I personally see myself. And one of those histories involved the Pendle Witches, a story so haunting it still lingers on the Lancashire hillsides. So I want you to grab your curiosity and maybe a torch if you're nervous, and let's wander. So it all began with a bench. Yes, a bench. I was sitting in a park one afternoon, literally mid-sandwich, when I noticed a plaque away to my right. Now the name didn't particularly ring any bells, but the words beneath it did. Local inventor, changed the way the world lights its streets. And just like that, curiosity bit me. I went home that day, Googled, and suddenly I was knee deep in tales of flickering gas lamps, Victorian fog, and people swearing that they saw ghosts in every single shadow. You know, Charles Dickens, the great man himself, once wrote, "Ghosts are real, that much I know." So that was my first taste of it, the unseen history that hides in plain sight. Because believe me, once you start looking, you can't stop. Every statue, every cobblestone street, every slightly wonky pub door starts whispering, "Oi mate, I've got a story." Oh, and by the way, the local inventor there was Joseph Swan of Sunderland. Now he's widely credited with developing one of the first practical incandescent light bulbs, which was used, and it revolutionised street lighting and indoor lighting worldwide. Now let me confess, I used to think adventure had to be epic. I mean, that's what we see adventure as, don't we? But when I hit 40, I went all in on that cliche, climbing mountains, even attempting Everest twice. I thought standing on the roof of the world would give me clarity, perspective, and a dramatic discovering life's true meaning moment with my crampons on. But I'm going to tell you the truth here. Everest didn't change me to that degree. It definitely made me more mentally resilient, and I was also a lot more grateful to be alive and to be here. But what actually changed me was once I turned 50. I had this light bulb moment, this realization that there were tiny, overlooked stories of life everywhere. And I'm a person who absolutely thrives on stories. The more historical, the better. So like the day I followed a crooked sign pointing towards the old rope walk. It sounded like a dodgy pub, right? But it actually turned out to be a narrow lane where 2 centuries ago men spent hours twisting hemp into rope for ships. I absolutely love history like that. Everything has a name and everything has a reason for that name. Now walking that road, I could almost hear the echo of boots, the creak of timber, the gruff voices of men whose names history had forgot. And yes, there was a shiver in the air. The sense that some places hold on to their past, whether we notice or not. As Indiana Jones said, it's not the years, honey, it's the mileage. So you see, that's the thing about unseen histories. They're not glamorous. These stories are about bakers who kept whole towns fed, stonemasons who carved the gargoyles that nobody notices on those high buildings, washerwomen who scrubbed until their hands bled. These stories rarely make the textbooks, but they're the ones that have stayed with me, and they're the ones that stay with me when I learn about them. As Howard Zinn once said, history is important. If you don't know history, it's as if you were born yesterday. Now let me take you to a hilltop in Lancashire, Pendle Hill. It's one of those places where the past feels thick. The atmosphere, you can just sense that something monumental went down there. Now locals say that if you walk it at dusk, you might hear voices carried on the wind or glimpse shadowy figures moving against the skyline. So let me tell you the brief story here. In 1612, 12 people from the Pendle area were accused of witchcraft. A bit like what happened in Salem, but before. Neighbours turned on neighbours, confessions were forced, even children testified against their own families. 10 of the accused were hanged. One was found guilty but reprieved, and another died in prison. So it wasn't about spells or cauldrons. It was about fear, poverty, and power. Yet centuries later, the story still clings to the hill, as if the land itself refuses to forget. As Dumbledore says in Harry Potter, fear of a name only increases fear of the thing itself. So when I first learned about Pendle, it struck me that unseen histories don't just hide in alleyways. Sometimes they haunt us in plain sight. So is there a lesson here? Yes, and it's this. Fear and scapegoating are as old as time, but so is resilience. As one judge declared during the trial, these witches have more power in their poverty than kings in their castles. Even in condemnation, you can hear the unease. So why does all this history, this unseen stuff, all these stories matter to me now that I'm 52? And I think it's because exploring hidden histories has given me permission to explore my own history, to explore who I am. Now, I'll be honest, I hit 50 a few years ago with the usual doubts that we all get when we get to this age. Am I now past my prime? Is this the downhill stretch? Should I just start collecting slippers and pretend that I'm enjoying garden centres? But then, in my downtime, I'd stumble on the story of somebody like Mary Anning, who dug fossils from the cliffs while society dismissed her. Give her a Google, it's fascinating. Or the Pendle villagers, clinging to survival even as fear consumed them and their entire community. And I'd think, if they can keep going, carve meaning and leave traces, then maybe it's not too late for me either. I could leave my own trace in life, leave my own legacy for people to read on in the future. In fact, maybe 50 and getting into your 50s is the perfect time to start laying down those foundations, because now you've collected enough scars, mistakes and laugh lines to know what truly matters in life. And also what doesn't. One of my favourite movie quotes of all time, and I've quoted it often from Ferris Bueller, is this: life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And that is so true. Life is gone like that. A little spoiler for you here. Most of the stuff that we worry about in our 30s and 40s doesn't matter. None of that matters at all. So here's what all these quirky wanderings have taught me. So life after 50 isn't about chasing the big headline moments. It's about noticing the footnotes. The footnotes in history, the footnotes in people's stories, and yes, even the footnotes of your own life. Because sometimes the bits that you thought were the throwaway, the job you hated, the heartbreak that broke you, the random hobby that you decided to quit on, they can turn out to be the very things that shape your next chapter. Winston Churchill put it best: the farther backward that you can look, the farther forward you are likely to see. Or, as the Shawshank Redemption taught us, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. So the truth is, we're all walking history books. We just don't always realise it. Every scar is a story, every laugh line is a landmark, and every mistake is a museum piece, some worth charging admission for. And in our 50s, we finally get to flip through the chapters with a bit of perspective. We get to choose which stories we carry forward and which ones we leave gathering dust. So exploring unseen histories isn't just about rope walks, forgotten inventors, or even witches on windswept hills. It's about recognising that we are the unseen history in the making. And the best part, we still get to write the next chapter. So if you take one thing from this little ramble today, let it be this one, all right? Don't wait for permission to reinvent yourself, is all I'm trying to say here. Don't assume curiosity has an expiry date, because it doesn't. And definitely don't let anyone tell you that midlife, or slightly older than midlife, 50s, is a slow path to the end. Because it's not. It's not a slow fade out. Because life in your 50s is not about slowing down, it's about just looking closer, examining all the detail in a much more finite way. It's about seeing the extraordinary hiding in the ordinary. And as you'll find out with me, if you watch more of my content, I love movie quotes. And here's one for you right now. Dead Poet Society, a classic. Carpe diem, seize the day, boys, make your lives extraordinary. So it is about realising that the best stories, yours included, are still waiting to be told. So now I'd like to hear from you. What's a little piece of history, quirky maybe, in your own town, in your own area, where you come from, maybe even in your own family, that deserves to be remembered? Drop it below in the comments, because who knows, your story might just inspire my next video. And if you've enjoyed this little story and this little journey today, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and check out some of my other episodes on finding joy in the little things in life, because trust me, that's where life gets interesting. So here's to unseen histories and to the beautiful, quirky, still unfolding history that is you. I'll see you on my next video. In the meantime, keep wondering and keep wandering.